Well, hello. I will be your guest lecturer for today. I am Professor Sprout. This is my monkey mandrake. It's an endangered species that is nice because it doesn't make the same crazy sounds as another kind of mandrake from Harry Potter would have. So, Monkey will hang out with Lucy for the lecture. And I wish I could wave my magic wand and solve all of the problems with food, but there's a lot of important environmental science that we all need to learn. So I appreciate you all listening to this very important lecture. Okay, so, and let's just say that this is lecture for unit 5.3, and it's about the Green Revolution and genetically modified organisms. So, the industrial agriculture is where we are today. We have industrialized the natural process of plants growing to be able to feed more people. And without industrial agriculture, we wouldn't be able to feed the millions of people that we can feed today. So, we're going to talk about the trade offs of industrial agriculture versus more sustainable agriculture. So, mechanization and standardization applied to food. To growing food. And let me pause for a minute to get the notes for you. Okay, so the notes that you should be taking are in page 10 of your packet. It's module 32 in your textbooks. So you'll be writing down some notes, and then you're going to watch an Ed puzzle that's a TED Talk. And then we're going to there's not too many notes on this one. Okay. So, energy subsidies. This is a huge, important thing for industrial agriculture. Okay, so the fossil fuel industry and human energy inputs per calorie of food produced. So, how much energy are we spending to get the food that we need in our bodies? So, in the US, there's 10 calorie energy input per every calorie you consume. And this has been, so Michael Pollan is the person that wrote this book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. He's written a bunch of other books, and he did the math to figure out that we are inputting 10 times the energy into agriculture that we are getting into our bodies. So it is, we're being wasteful, and we can be better with this. So most of this is due to fossil fuel use, fertilizers, pesticides, tractors, machinery, and irrigation. We'll be talking a lot about irrigation and how when we water the crops, it has big environmental impacts. Also transportation, so you have to get the food's grown in one country and then you ship it to another country. So there's a lot of a big industrial footprint from the food that you get. So that's where we're going to talk about eating more locally and eating food that's grown in a way with less mechanization that's better for the environment. So why does a salad cost more than a Big Mac? This is such an upside down problem. It does not make sense that you should be able to get a burger for $1 and have to pay more for a salad. So here's the reason: subsidies. So as you can see here, the federal subsidies for food production so these are data from 1995 to 2005. So vegetables and fruits are not subsidized, and neither nuts and legumes, but grains are. And the big thing is that dairy and meat are subsidized. So there's a long history of subsidies. It's important to understand this idea that the government helps companies be successful. There's a lot of good reasons for this in the past, but it is about time to flip this thing upside down. We really should be subsidizing vegetables because that's better for humans and for the environment. So just to compare here, you can see that what people should be eating and what we need to be healthy and nutritious is more grains and vegetables and not having as much meat. So it's just backwards. And we should work towards having more vegetables in our diets. In the next lecture, I'll talk more about choices of what you eat. because I want to make sure that I'm going to keep saying it. You get to choose what you eat, but you may change your mind based on what you know. So the green revolution, this is not a good green revolution like green for the environment. It's the name of the revolution. So this is the shift to mechanization, fertilizer, irrigation, improved crop varieties over the last 100 years. It's not green like environmentally friendly. They were able to grow more food, which was really great, but it had a backlash. So there's an Ed puzzle that I'm going to put up in Ed puzzle for you called the Other Inconvenient Truth. And it talks about how much of an impact on the global environment food production has. Okay. So when we talk about climate change, we talk about the food that we eat. So mechanization is trying to get economies of scale. You can save a lot of money and feed more people when you mechanize and you increase. So the average cost of production decreases as the output increases, which is good. More people are getting more food. So there's large upfront expenditures. They're justified by profits. Small farms can't keep up, and so they end up having to close down. So the average farm size throughout history has gone up throughout the history in the United States. So they used to have farms that were on like the 100 to 200 acre level, and now farms are much, much bigger. And the average farm size around the world is much bigger in the United States than other countries. So the United States is huge on using large amounts of land to produce mostly meat. So monocropping is an important concept. It means that you're planting so you're doing large plantings of one variety of crop. So what's good about it is it's efficient and productive and it's economical. But monocrop is not something that nature has ever seen. And whenever you go against nature, you're going to have some pushback, this balance, right? The positive and negative feedback. So here's a drawback. There's more soil erosion. There's a high vulnerability to pests, a loss of biodiversity, and a lack of predators. So one of a great story about this is that if you grow one type of plant all the time, the pests that come along with that plant are so happy. It's like you just gave them a whole bunch of food. So usually if one plant grows and then dies off and then comes back another season, grows and dies off and comes back another season, that actually keeps the pest level low. When you provide pests with a source of food for all the time, they never fall back and they can overgrow. And then those pests will attack and destroy your crop unless you use pesticides, and pesticides are very bad for the environment. We are going to be learning a lot more about pesticides in upcoming units, and we will learn about how the general use of pesticides ends up being bad in the long run for the pest cycle. So we'll talk about this pesticide treadmill where you have to keep adding more and more and more pesticides to try to keep it balanced. So, and if you don't have a mixture of crops, if you don't have that diversity, right, because biodiversity is so important, then you end up having problems in the long run. So one of the things that's fascinating is that in this loss of genetic diversity is what we've done to seeds. So a century ago, there were so many more different kinds of seeds for so many of the vegetables that we eat, like cabbage and beets and cucumber and tomato and squash. And one of my son's favorite, the cantaloupe, it's the muskmelon. If you know muskmelon, it's like a cantaloupe, delicious. And you can see that now, like 80 years later, by the by 1983, we have drastically reduced the number of seeds for all the different kinds of crops. So you'll see that now instead of having 338 types of seeds to grow a muskmelon, now you only have 27. So that loss of diversity is dangerous because if we lose those seeds, then we lose our ability to make that food. So that is the important information for Unit 5.3. The next lecture will be 5.3b about human nutritional needs. Happy Halloween!